The contents on this channel are for learning, insight, and introspection.
Hey, mindful people, you have made your way back to Mind Your Mind with Just Justified. So here we are, another live. I'm getting into it. I'm doing it. I'm getting momentum. But I am so glad for the guest that we have today. I actually hopped onto her channel on TikTok and I really enjoyed her content and I frequent there. And then I was like, okay, I got to get her on my channel so we can have a conversation. So we have with me today Monique Ashley Divinity. I'm gonna call her Divinity throughout this stint because I really just love how that sounds. But I'm gonna bring her up here right now, and then she's going to introduce herself real quick.
Hello.
Hey, how
Hi.
are you?
I'm doing pretty
Welcome
good.
to Mind Your Mind.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes. I'm so excited to have you. You know, we got to have a little conversation before earlier today, and I was just glad to have you here because there's so much information locked up in you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, real quick, let's talk about your channel. Let's introduce the people to your TikTok side.
Okay, thank you. So, my TikTok channel or page is called My Divinity is Within 89. I also have My Divinity is Within 2. And I got on TikTok because I really wanted to get my voice. I wanted to be heard, and I wanted to validate other women's stories because I am a survivor of rape, and I don't know if we can say that on YouTube, but
I'll probably stay safe just in case. I'm not monetized though, but you know,
okay,
I'll stay safe just in case.
okay. So and I really started doing a lot of education or a lot of research on it. Acquaintance rape, and just really starting to understand what I was going through. And then I wanted to help other women. And so my TikTok page, it is My Divinity. I changed the name, but if you look me up under RAPE.Hurts, then it will pop up still as well. So that's a little bit about me. That's why I started my TikTok. And I love talking about social issues. I love just bringing truth to people and a safe space for people.
Awesome. That's actually one of the things that kept me in your space when I went there, because I was like, it wasn't even only you, but you especially as a host, but like the room, it was like, so there were transparent people in there talking about social issues and being open and vulnerable, and you allowed that space for them, where other spaces may not.
Yep, that's very true.
Yep. So you saw what we are talking about today. We're talking about boundaries. What boundaries? Right? So I do have a clip to start us off with. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Here we go.
Me out when people say they never heard of conversational boundaries. Like, you need conversational boundaries. Let me help you understand this a little bit more. Sometimes we don't have the emotional or the mental capacity to hold conversations with people. Sometimes we don't have the capacity to absorb other people's emotional burdens. Sometimes we cannot do the emotional labor because we have life going on. We're stressed out. We already have our own personal burdens. Or maybe we're just exhausted of listening to the same thing. So sometimes you have to set this boundary with yourself. When it comes to conversations, you got to be willing to communicate your comfort levels. If you know that you're not comfortable having a certain type of conversation, or you're not comfortable hearing the same thing, don't have the conversation. It is absolutely okay for you to let a person know that certain topics of conversations make me uncomfortable. It's also absolutely okay to let people know that I need some space. The reason why sometimes we don't tell people is because our catastrophic thinking turns on and we assume the worst out of a situation. We assume that things are just going to go horrible. The worst than worst case possible scenario is going to happen. Sometimes you have to assume the best. And if the best doesn't play out, oh well. Some things you simply can't control. Relinquish that need to be in control of certain things. If you can no longer be a person's emotional dumping ground, let them know you can't always play unpaid therapist, sugar. They may be upset. They may leave. They may call you out your name. They may have an outburst. Shoot, they may even set a boundary against the boundary that you create. Let them. Okay? You can't control that. That right there is enough for you to see how they feel or if their responses don't align with where you are trying to go in life. Too many people personalize these situations, so when you set a boundary, they take it as a personal attack, and guess what? You cannot control that. That is how they view themselves. There is something within them that is making them react and respond in a way that they are, and you can't do anything about that. It's not like you're setting a boundary to disrespect them. I hope you're not setting a boundary to disrespect them, because if that's the case, then that's a harsh boundary and that's unhealthy. But in order for you to show up for yourself and for other people, you have to be your most sane self. I hope this gives you all something to work with. I wish you all the best, happy healing, and happy healthy relationships. Bye, babies.
So what do you think about that one?
I absolutely love that. I just
so many
actually-
nuggets, right?
Yes, I sat back with, in myself, and I just really was like, what's crazy? I have boundaries, heavy boundaries with men, but not with other people, like not with women a lot. It's very hard for me to say no. But I like what she said. Like, I had to tell a friend to stop talking about her husband to me because her husband did some things to me, and I had to set that boundary. And it was hard because I want to be there for her, but I had to let her know in every capacity I will be there for you except when you talk about him. I had to put that boundary up, and it was hard.
Yeah. See, and I think that's what we do not look at sometimes, because I think that's one of the things that I actually recently started to learn. Because, when we come into the realm of even like trauma dumping and all that, and realizing that not everybody is ready to take all of that at whatever time.
Right.
And to be aware of that and respect that. So in return, I should be able to say what I am ready for. Let's say I had like a whole crazy day of work, and then coming in and just, let's say, the family at home, then they start going in with complaints or
right.
tasks or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I got to be like, okay, no, give me a minute. Let me wind down. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like that boundary thing, it can go across the board with, just being respectful and mm-hmm. understanding it,
Yeah, that's very true. And I think boundaries are even.
Uh-oh.
I think it's.
Oh, you're back. Okay.
I think it's okay to set boundaries, with children as well, because you really have to teach people how to treat you. That's what boundaries is. You have to teach people how to treat you, what's not acceptable, if something is not comfortable for you. And that includes kids as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely true. Because, you remember, a lot of people, they compartmentalize the children's experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to think about it, that they're going to grow into an adult. Mm-hmm. So we have to teach them a lot of these concepts and everything from early. So we have to teach children how to either respect boundaries or set boundaries for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So
both.
Yep. That's a good one. So, and you said something real quick that I thought was that you'll kind of see in the second video choice that I chose. Mm-hmm. It was more like it's looking at boundaries as a protection for you.
Yeah.
So let's check this video out. Tell me what you think.
Okay.
Boundaries are there to protect everyone. They're not there to make people comfortable. Protection is not always comfortable. Mm-hmm. Your seatbelt may not always be the most comfortable, depending on what you got on, depending on how you sitting. The lap bar on roller coasters may not always be comfortable for you, depending on your size, how you fit, but it's there for protection. Your fear cannot supersede your need for protection. You feel me? Like, protection is a need. It's not something that you might should have sometimes and maybe could enforce some days. Like, bruh, you have to get to the other side of your fear, because this is about your mental health, your emotional health, your spiritual health, as well as the health of the other party. You know what I'm saying? So if you out here moving out of fear, you're not really too much good to the spaces that you occupying anyway. So it's safety over fear, for real.
That was
What do you
good.
think about that one?
That was really, really good. Everything that he said is 1,000% true. It's not always comfortable, but in order for you to really be happy, in order for you to be healthy mentally, hell, even emotionally, you do have to set those boundaries, and they may hurt people, but at the same time, I think that if you do set boundaries and someone has an issue with them, they don't need to be in your life because they're not a safe.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
that's kind of exactly what I thought when he started to talk.
Yeah, yeah. Because, like, just like I like the analogy that he used. Oh, I'm sorry. I was on mute. Yeah, I was saying because I like the analogy that he used with the seatbelt. Like it may
Yep.
be uncomfortable, but it's necessary,
Mm.
for our protection.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great analogy in a sense where when you're thinking about boundaries, like that's going to be that uncomfortable conversation sometimes for you or even the other person. And,
Yeah.
especially if you're an overthinker, you're thinking about, oh, how's that person going to feel? Is that person going to still like me? Or,
Mhm.
things like that. But then you're like, now you have to think about, no, but the overall reason for that boundary is for a healthy relationship or a healthy interaction.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I really like that one. It was a really good one. So, girl, I told you sometimes when I come across these like very significant
Mm-hmm.
videos, I'm like, okay, that's when it comes in. Yeah, no, we got to talk about this and just pile some really good ones
Mm-hmm.
together. So this do you have anything to say about that one before we move on?
Nope, we
Or
can move on. I like both of
okay,
those
great,
videos.
great, great. Awesome. This one is a good one as well. So check this out.
Okay.
Is not me rejecting you. It's protecting me. I'll look you square in your face and tell you that I love you with all my heart, but that doesn't mean that you have access to it. I can love you truly, deeply, with the love of God, but because of your behaviors, the way that you think, the inconsistency of your decisions, because I see how you handle your life, I choose not to give you permission to handle my life that way. It's my responsibility to do that for me.
Wow, that was awesome. I loved her sincerity. She was
Yeah.
very sincere about that. I love it.
And the thing is, it's like, yes, you can. And the thing about that is that, yes, you're going to feel a type of way sometimes, but you have to understand that. And yes, I love you. Yes, it doesn't take away from my love for you and all that. But
Mm.
if that boundary is necessary, it's necessary, and we got to stick to that.
Yeah, you have to,
You know?
because you will literally teach people how to treat you. If you don't, they will walk all over you. I used to be I don't want to call myself a doormat, but I used to be somewhat of a
People
um
pleaser type.
yeah, I hate saying it, but I really used to be
It's a
that way because I
yeah.
didn't want to hurt people. I didn't want to let people down. I always wanted to be the most dependable person because I know how it feels to not be able to depend on somebody and to not have anybody. And I always felt like whoever was in my life, I wanted them to know that they had a solid person. But
Mm.
in me doing that and feeling so strong about wanting to help people, wanting to be there for them and support them, I got used a lot and walked over because I didn't set the necessary boundaries. And I was like, wow, I'm teaching people how to treat me. Like, that's not okay. I have to do it. And then, like she said, it is for my safety. In my opinion, it's for everybody's safety. So I loved it.
Yeah. And I feel like, one of the newest words that I came across for myself was like self-advocacy.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, who is going to stand up for me the most than me standing up for myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you leave it to anybody else, you're going to be disappointed a great deal.
Yeah.
You know, so the best person to stand up for you is you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I'm like, as I move into having that voice and, you know, standing up for who I am, what I believe in, my moral compass, whatever else, you know, I got to think about that. Not everyone else is going to think of me during certain situations.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to advocate for myself and make sure that as much as I want the best for others, I also have to love myself enough to know that I need the best for me as well.
That is so true. That is absolutely true. The self-love is really real. And I think that a lot of it, I think a lot of times when you don't have good boundaries, I think it comes from like trauma. I think a lot of people who have unhealthy boundaries, or they don't really like let people know how they feel, and that they're not comfortable with something. I think those people have had a lot of experiences with trauma. And a lot of people, they don't want to disappoint people. You know, I don't know. I know, as a person who's had a lot of trauma in their life, that's how I used to be. And I think that trauma does cause people to have weak boundaries until they get to a point where they start to love themselves and realize, I can't keep letting people cross my boundaries when I do set them.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, there was something that I saw just this week about even with the people pleasing thing. And you know, they placed the video that I saw placed the people pleaser at fault to a certain degree, because you're manipulating how people view you just so you're accepted, or
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
yeah, so you're whatever you perceive you want them, you think they're expecting of you,
Mhm.
or whatever, you know, comfort you've made for them, and then you're at a disadvantage to yourself.
Mhm.
But you know, you're kind of manipulating because, you know, sometimes, and the manipulation comes because there'll be sometimes where there's a request and you're like, I really don't want to do this.
Mhm.
I really don't want to do this. But the people pleasing part is like, okay, you know, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you're kind of going against what you really want to do.
Yeah.
And what you're up for. Yeah.
Even when you're uncomfortable.
Mhm.
That's one thing. Also, I stopped wanting to make everybody comfortable with me being miserable, but by not speaking up about things. I didn't, you know, like I don't want to purposely make people feel uncomfortable, but you're not gonna feel comfortable while I'm sitting over here miserable. And I had to look at myself, and I remember, you know, I need to speak up for myself. I'm too uncomfortable while everybody else around me is able to just do, feel, and act in ways that hurt me. Or, you know, yeah, that's, I think I'm saying it the wrong way, but it's a thing where, okay, cool. Because sometimes I get a little tongue twisted. But yeah, not allowing people to be comfortable making you uncomfortable and staying that way. Like, advocate for yourself. You have to do that.
Yep. I agree. Yeah. But so I do have a last video that we can check out. I didn't get to look at this one fully through, so we're gonna kind of, this is like our first look together with this one.
Okay.
All right.
When you let a person slide once, they will think they are at a water park. Do you hear me? You see, there are certain kind of people out there who take advantage of you, right? Because you're a kind person, you have a pure heart, But let them slide once with doing something that you're uncomfortable with, that you're not okay with, where you feel disrespected, no matter if it's very minute and small or if it's large. Regardless of what it is, if you let a person slide once, that is you teaching them on how to treat you. Okay? Setting boundaries is about what you are willing to tolerate and what you are not willing to tolerate. Your negotiables and your non-negotiables. Okay? So when you set a boundary, that's letting that person know, non-negotiable. There's no debating it. I am not okay with that. No. That's what setting a boundary is. Many people don't set boundaries because they feel like they have to be so boisterous and mean and aggressive and tough. And no. And honestly, you know, growing up, that's what made it so hard for me to set boundaries, because I wasn't a mean-spirited person. You know, I'm a pure-hearted person. I'm a kind person. You know, I mean well by everyone, genuine. So it was hard for me to be mean to people, because it's like the reason why I would say yes when I wanted to say no is because I didn't know I was people-pleasing, because I didn't want to be mean. I didn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Understand something. That is you prioritizing other people and their feelings and neglecting your own. You see, when you do things like this, it's a disservice to yourself. You lack self-worth, self-value, self-love, okay? Also, when you do this, when you say yes, when you really want to say no, you create a war within yourself. It affects your mental health, because all you can contemplate and think about is how you wanted to say no and you're not okay with this, or you're uncomfortable. And here's the thing. You have to set boundaries within yourself. It starts with yourself, your own self-respect, okay? So, for example, if you say, I want to start working out. I'm going to start working out on Tuesday. Tuesday rolls around and you make excuses and you don't go work out. See, that is you not respecting yourself. That's you not keeping your own word. So when you don't keep your own word with yourself, what happens is that is what sets the tone with how you allow others to treat you. When you don't keep your word with yourself, the people around you, the people in your life notice that. And that teaches them on how to treat you also. And that's a lot of the reason why you accept excuses from other people. Or and if people don't keep their word with you, you know, you allow it. And you quickly and always easily forgive. And you don't say anything because you don't even keep the word with yourself. So you have to value yourself by keeping your word. Doing little things like, if you say you're going to make your bed every morning, make that a priority to do so. If you say you're going to the gym, make it a priority to do so. Whatever you put your mind to and say that you want to do, keep the word within yourself. Keep your own word. Stand on business with you. So when it comes to people doing something that you don't like, understand you do not have to be mean, aggressive, and loud. You can simply say, I am not okay with that. Or no, I don't like it. I'm not okay with that. I don't agree with that. You can be calm. And the thing is, just because a person is loud does not mean they're tough. Does not mean they're strong and bad. Do you hear me? Being loud and aggressive and hostile. No, it's not necessary. You can stand on business by being calm, looking people in the eye, and calmly saying, I am not okay with that. Do you hear me? So no more letting things slide. Like I said, it doesn't matter how small it is. If you're not okay with that, do not let it slide. No, I'm not okay with that. Because that is teaching people on how to treat you. You teach people how to treat you by no longer allowing things to slide.
She went in.
Mm-hmm. Stepped on toes.
Yes. Okay.
Because, you know, how many times do we not even keep our own schedules, our own, you know, requirements for ourselves?
That is so true.
So
That is so true.
What do we expect from other people?
Right.
That's
Yep.
the crazy part. That's something else.
She got me feeling convicted. I'm like, listen, I did say I was gonna go to the gym. So, you know,
I just closed my my membership, but anyway.
Yeah, like but you know, that everything that she said can be summed up with, if you give a person an inch, they will take a mile.
Facts.
She said so much of what I have had to learn over the past couple of years. You know, this is gonna sound a little bit, hopefully not too crazy, but I had a boundary when I was younger, like a teenager, when I got a cell phone. And the boundary was, people cannot call me during these times of the day because I have insomnia and I'm up a lot at night and I don't want to talk to people unless I want to talk to you. And for the most part, I don't. Because that's my quiet time. That's my time to be away from the world. Everybody is asleep, so it's peaceful. I just love everything about the nighttime. And so because I'm up, and doing research and things, I am going to be tired in the morning. Because
Mm.
that's actually when I used to be able to sleep, was in the morning. And so I would let people know, like, don't call me before 10 a.m. And don't call me after, I think it was like 9 p.m. And I was so serious about that boundary, to the point where when people would call me, I would let them know, like, please, call during these times, because um, that's just what I said. And another
Hmm.
thing too is,
And it could be just because
yeah,
your
exactly that.
boundary could be just because for you,
Yep.
it's important.
Mm-hmm. And that's another thing I was going to say. It led me to say what you just said. You don't even have to explain yourself to people. That is something that I do too much. I over explain, or because because I feel bad. You know what I mean?
Hey, Deanna MUA. Yep, I get that too, because that's how I have been as well. It's
Yeah.
like, and I'm not giving, and I'm going to be truthful. I
Mm-hmm.
still struggle with it.
Yeah. It's a
Isn't
process.
it hardest to tell the people you love no?
Yes, it really is.
It's like, your family members, like, I remember like this church family I had in Brooklyn, New York. I was like, okay, so I sing, and I sang quite a bit when I was in New York. And it's like sometimes, certain programs will pop up and
Yeah.
they'll ask me like last minute, oh, can you sing for us? Can you do this for us? Sometimes I was like fine with it, but other times I was like, ugh, I don't really
Yeah.
want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But it was the whole telling them no that was the issue for me, especially depending on who asked me.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I don't know. Okay, fine. And then I'll just have to, you feel that, kind of
Yeah.
feel it. Like, I don't know how to explain it, but you feel like,
Yeah.
fine.
I don't know where that comes from. I don't even understand why. Why the people who are like that, like we are like that. I just think it may take a little bit of work, to continue to stay on the path of speaking your truth, saying how you feel, keeping those boundaries, because what you just said, it just reminded me of someone. And this is an example of not having those boundaries and not being true to those boundaries. I'm excited that you can sing though. I love music in general. But when I used to go to church, there was the praise and worship leader, very, very gifted, very, very gifted, beautiful voice. If you know who Israel Houghton is, that's exactly who he sounds
Hmm.
like. Yep, that's exactly who he
Okay.
sounds like. And he was the praise and worship leader at our church. And he was going through a lot. He was going through a lot of depression, not wanting to live kind of thoughts. And even though he was going through all of this, he kept begging the pastors to let him sit down because he was not well spiritually and mentally, and he needed to be seated. He needed to sit down, and he needed to be ministered to. Well, they kept on pushing him. Like you said, they asked him to sing, times that he wasn't, supposed to be singing or leading a song. They would just randomly call him up, during service if the pastor wanted to hear a song. And he got so burned out that he picked up his piano one day, or his keyboard, and he hit it. He left, and he was storming. He stormed out. They were arguing during like praise and worship rehearsal. And it just came to my mind, because I know when you said what you said about singing, that bothered him so much, because it's almost like people just saw him as an instrument to be used, and not as a person that has a soul that is going through some things. And so, because
Yeah.
that boundary kept getting crossed with him, he's actually been scarred pretty bad because of that.
See, and that's the kind of stuff that kind of build up on people, because a lot of times I think that may be one of the issues too, so that I know I have experienced, where you found yourself trying to tell people what your intentions are, what you know, and because they didn't take you seriously,
Mm-hmm.
and they overlooked it or whatever, or they were like, oh, come on, you'll be all right, or whatever, it's like it kind of invalidated you, and then it kind of took a hit, as in, okay, now, so then you kind of get the gist of, okay, if I ever tell you something like this again, it's gonna probably be the same thing, so why even bother?
Right.
So I don't know, and that probably, over and over, that happening, it kind of affects as well.
Yeah.
So, but one thing I do know is that anyone who has an issue with your boundaries, anyone that have issues with your boundaries, you kind of have to evaluate those who kind of react. Now, I wonder about it because sometimes people may be used to you accepting. So when you set your boundary, they feel a type of way.
Yeah.
But if they truly love you and want the best for you, though, I feel like it should be one of those things where it shouldn't really be like completely negative with their response. Like it may be like a discomfort, but like okay, this is what you really want. Okay, I understand.
Yeah. That's
Because go ahead.
I'm sorry. That's just really sad, because I think some of the sad part about it is when you set a boundary to try to push it, it kind of almost makes you feel sad, because it's like, okay, you don't hear me. I said no, or I asked you to do X, Y, and Z. So it's like it makes you think to yourself, am I worth anything to this person? Because why are you continuing to do something that I'm asking you not to do, or whatever the case is? That's harsh. That's a harsh reality when you start to realize, like, damn, they don't respect me.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep. And that's what you said about feeling bad about how they feel. But what about even the guilt that like people who usually, have to go through all that, and knowing that you're making someone probably feel discomfort when you set that boundary, like that guilt is real too.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very real. And like I said, I think that's rooted in trauma as well. Because, I mean, listen, I love a person very direct and just tell you flat out, like she said, you don't have to be mean about it. You don't have to be aggressive or whatever, but they could just look you in your eyes, stand flat footed, and tell you. I so envy people who can do that. If I'm going to envy anybody about anything, it's about, it's really, it's like too nice. And even when you think about the real definition of that word, that's not a good word to describe yourself as, because being nice, I believe the definition of being nice, or the etymology of it, has something to do with being a doormat. You're being nice to people who don't care about you as much as you care about them, and then that's hard.
And I saw something somewhere before too, where like, where the person said, I'd rather be good than be nice.
Yeah, that's real.
Like you can be a good person, but you don't always have to be a nice person, especially if you're passing my boundaries. I have a right to not have to be nice about it. Like, no, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Goodbye. But, as a good person, good is good. Like, that's it. But I'd rather be good than always nice. Like,
right.
I would like to be nice. I like to be nice, but I cannot always be nice.
Right. That's true. That's very, very true.
Yeah. But, it's been a great conversation.
Yes, I'm really enjoying it. I love it.
Yeah. I really, like, I like to do things that hit home with a lot of people, and I know that people pleasing, especially when it comes to even families.
Oh, yeah.
People pleasing is, or, not being able to establish boundaries. That's like a commonplace.
I have a question.
Like, how can you tell your mama no?
Right. I have a question. Do you think
Mhm.
do you think that codependency has anything to do with boundary issues as well?
Ooh, of course. Of course. Because, I guess, remember I said earlier about how you're looking for acceptance, really.
Yeah, yep.
So if you're looking for acceptance, it's like you're feeding each other. You're giving them what you think they want, and then in return, they're getting what they want, and you're feeling this notion of acceptance.
Yeah, wanting to be accepted. And I can't stand that. I'm sorry, but when it comes to um when it comes to wanting to be accepted, even though I'm nice to people, well, I won't say nice, even though I treat people the right way,
Well, you can be nice, but not always nice. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
you may not always be. May
yeah.
not always.
Even though I am, like that with people, I just really have an issue with being too dependent on someone. But I'm
Mhm.
still very much so, like, well, I'm not anymore. I used to be a person that was always available to people, to help them or to talk or whatever. But like you said, in the I think you said it, or the person said it in the first video that you played. um
Mhm.
when a person is even talking trauma dumping, I have,
Mhm.
somebody who, I'm not going to mention too much about it, but somebody, when we talk on a certain platform on social media, this person tends to take over, and I'm having an issue now, having to think about sitting down and talking with her and asking her, can you please limit when you share your stories, because it's too long and it's like trauma dumping, and then it takes away from the conversation, and it doesn't give other people time to talk, and it drains me, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, remember I told you I kind of had like I was going through like a rough patch at one point, and I kept dumping on my friends at one point where I had to try and be aware. I was like, ooh,
Yeah.
this is being a little bit too often. So
Hmm.
it comes with a lot of awareness too. But
Yeah.
then now I see the tough part that it puts you in, where she's not being aware. So you're having to find that place where you can um let her know and bring it to her attention that it may be a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah. It is. Do you mind if I share something?
Sure, sure.
I just thought about this as well. Not having boundaries can put you in a very, very unsafe place.
Oh, yep,
Very,
yep.
very unsafe. If you
Hmm.
don't learn to speak up for yourself when something happens, or if somebody tries to do something, that's why it's really good to show kids also when they're young how to set boundaries. Because me having not so good boundaries when I was younger, I feel like that is what caused me to continue to experience sexual abuse by someone. And
Mm,
then I felt bad because of what the person did to me. Like, it was just ridiculous. And so when I was just
mm.
sitting here, just thinking, I was like, wow, me not having good boundaries put me in a lot of messed up positions where I could have
But
avoided
this was when you
things.
were younger,
I
in
was like,
particular.
yeah, but I was like 18.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then that's where the importance of what you just said about even stressing, teaching our children about boundaries,
Mm,
because even though you were 18, you're still you're still kind of right, you know?
mhm.
And if you were not taught boundaries, that's something sometimes that you learn along the way if you're not taught.
Yeah,
So yeah, I get that. I get
that's very
that.
true.
Oof. Because there's, for them to even establish like, okay, no, this is like, this is not okay.
Hmm.
This area you can't touch.
Yeah.
All of that, like teaching your children boundaries is necessary.
Yeah, it
It's so true.
really is. It can save your life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Dion MUA, she says boundaries are hard to establish and stick to the ones we value.
Mm-hmm.
Said it can be scary too. It's just so
Yep.
true.
That's very true. It's very hard to keep them, and I don't even think it's hard. Well, maybe it is. It's hard to keep them. It's hard to enforce them or to make them, because you have habitual boundary crossers. That's what I call them. Habitual
So
boundary
true.
crossers.
Yep.
They just don't care. They don't care if you're uncomfortable. They don't care, with how you say it to them. And some people, like narcissists, before you know they're narcissists, will even guilt you into having boundaries. That's wild.
So true. So true. They will see your red flags and they'll take the bleach and dye it white.
Yes. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
That's crazy. But it's true. It's true. Those narcissists are no joke. Like narcissistic types. They're because I've been in that predicament quite a bit where it's like you know that they know they're putting you in discomfort, but just because it's self-pleasing to them, who cares?
Exactly. And that's how you kind of establish narcissists are great boundary crossers. Like they are just always going to cross your boundaries. And that's why when you realize, when you see that kind of behavior where a person is habitually crossing the boundaries or whatever, it's just good to really people. I wouldn't even try to continue to enforce anything except distance. Straight
That's
up
what they
distance.
say. They say like some of the best ways to deal with them is either go no contact or like gray rocking in a sense,
Yeah.
if needs be, because not all the time you can go complete, but gray rocking if possible.
Yeah.
That's man. But and that's true. And I feel like that's what we need to talk about too when we talk about boundaries, because yes, you can set all the boundaries you want, but there's going to be people who's going to push them no matter what.
That's true.
And you have to stand your ground on what you believe in and know that once that boundary is passed, now you need to take action.
Right.
And I feel like we let too many people pass when they've passed our boundaries, where that needed to be time where an action needs to be taken so they can know, okay, that's not okay.
Yeah, that's very true. And yeah, always look for the reaction from the person, because that'll tell you a lot.
Yep. So, Divinity, it was a pleasure talking with you today.
Same here.
I love this. I gotta have you back, because I know we have some other topics that we want to touch a little bit that we were talking about before together. That I will love to bring to the platform and get it out there. Some awareness and everything, especially with child protection and everything. So I would definitely love to have you back, of course, on this channel.
Absolutely.
And
anytime.
Of course, I'll be on your channel often, But definitely I love this conversation. I thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thanks.
And I really enjoyed it. I love your platform.
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
No
I mean, I'm trying. I'm coming up here. I haven't been consistent with my lives, but I was like, okay, you know what? A lot of times I'm reading notes because that's how I keep my thoughts together.
Yeah. But
I do the best with conversation, and I love conversation. So, and digging deep, and that dialogue is it's I just love intentional conversation.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. So hopefully we can definitely do this again. I will see you in the next one.
Thank you. And you have a great night.
Thank you for coming. All right, everyone. Peace.